Good evening. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the East Hampton Planning and Zoning Commission. Sorry for the tardiness due to our technical difficulties. It's now 6:35. We're meeting in Town Hall Room 107 and via Zoom. And with that, I'm going to see, let's see. I'll see Sally since I only gave you 3 minutes last time.
Okay,
Until Roland shows up, you might be kicked off again.
I
We
am
don't know.
prepared for that.
Okay, good. What I'm looking for is the approval of the minutes of the July 3rd, 2026 regular meeting with any additions or alterations by any members of the commission. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion on the floor from Jim. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, Sally beat you to it.
She did.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of June 3rd, 2026. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? One abstention. From Angelus. Okay. Additions to the agenda. We are going to end up having to go back to communications. So let's go to liaison reports. Michael.
Yeah, the RPC consists of mostly the legislative update. There's a new bill in the legislature that would allow residential uses in the industrial zone.
Really?
Yeah. Provided it's either within 1,000 feet of a transit stop, it was ever previously zoned residential. And Director Gold shared some of his testimony against this bill. Mostly that it defeats the fundamental goal of protecting residents from noxious or incompatible uses. And he also pointed out that only 3% of the land is zoned for residential. So it doesn't really increase the land available to residential, but it severely potentially limits what little industrial zoning we do have.
You mean the 3% is residential, 3% is industrial?
3% is industrial.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Limits towns' ability to broaden their tax base pretty. That's a bad bill.
Yeah.
They don't care about that.
Jim.
Okay,
may I say something?
Okay, right back to you. Okay, Jim, go ahead.
okay, I listened in on the zoning board of appeals meeting June the 8th. And they had one application which was Kenneth Father requested the following variance to section 4.4.e area and dimension standards to allow reduction for the front setback the Cosset Trail from 50 feet to 20 feet, 20.88 feet. And front setback Daily Road from 50 feet to 43.4. And increase the maximum lot coverage from the existing 12.6 to 14.4 for construction of a 24 by 32 barn on 39 Daily Road. Map 33 block 87 lot 5A. At the meeting, they felt that there was because both actually Mr. Barber presented the application when he did. He stated that the property is located in an R4 residential zone. And explained that the lot was created in 1953 before the zoning regulation was adopted. And that the construction of the Cosset Trail resulted in a partial having 2 front setbacks, creating a unique hardship. And that application, that was, the whole thing was went to the board, And the board voted to grant the variance. So that was pretty much it. I will report one thing. I listened in on this thing by Zoom. And Cheryl came up, you could hear every word she said real clear and everything, but I couldn't hear one member.
Yeah, I
talking.
couldn't hear them either. I was
It
looking
was
at,
very poor. It's just, you couldn't speak one word.
no,
And Cheryl was real loud. I mean, you could really hear her.
that room's very difficult because you can't move the owl any closer to them. Cause you know how the plugs in the floor there, you can always hear the person at the computer. So hopefully in the summer, I think they can, Board of Ed doesn't meet, so they can come in here, but. I agree with you. Very hard to hear.
That's good to know.
Okay,
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Oh, just a quick town announcement. I'm on the board for the Cop House. Gazebo music will be held in the high school tomorrow, due to the heat in the auditorium. Thanks.
You're welcome. Angelos.
Nothing to report. Yes, we had a joint meeting of the WPCA Water Pollution Control Authority and the POCD, the Plan of Conservation and Development, last night. I will say it was quite a spirited meeting. I think we got a little bit done. Actually, we got a lot done. We defined what the roles of the WPCA was in actually the map for the
Yeah.
sewer expansion. Who is responsible for the map for the sewer expansion? Who was responsible for approving the map, if I'm saying that right? But I think we got a little bit done, and I think we were gonna put in for an extension for the POCD.
So it's not an extension. The plan would have been due today effectively, or by the end of this month. So if a municipality doesn't have their plan finished, you know, at the month and year that they're supposed to, you just let OPM know that. And you give an explanation and sort of an anticipated timeline for completion. Should you have to apply for funding during that time because you aren't eligible for funding if you don't have a POCD? You know, that letter is in place to let them know that you're not blowing it off, it's just late, so. I think that maybe got signed today and sent out. You'll be fine, OPM is fine with that, but you don't ask for an extension, you just let them know that it's not done yet. And you just have to keep justifying, updating them if you apply for funding.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. August, we should have the draft of the POCD out to the public.
Yeah, that's what I'm aiming for. So I was figuring the letter said something about, or that you're hoping to get it totally approved by the end of the year. That's what the letter says. So working backwards, there's a couple of public hearings obviously that have to occur. And one of which being the town council. It does go to the town council for them to look at. They can opt to hold a public hearing. I would assume that they will hold a public hearing. So that's the first avenue. You get your comments back or their report back, and you, the PZC with the POCD steering committee can talk about what suggestions they might have made and decide to incorporate or not. Then we make that decision and either incorporate it or don't, and then that version sort of goes up on the website for a month out to the cogs, you know, for public can send in comments, or, you know, it's just like a comment period, and we wait for the cogs. And then we schedule the public hearing, like the formal public hearing for adoption, that of course doesn't have a timeline because it's your application. So it would be good to get a draft by August. It'll give you a little more time should you choose to have more than one public hearing, you know, for adoption, or if you want to have a special meeting, you know, 2 meetings in that month to have public hearings for the P O C D. It'll give you a little more wiggle room. So, and then once that's approved, it goes to OPM and hopefully they accept it.
So, we're looking at a September, October public hearing,
Probably November.
November. We'll wrap this up by the end of the year.
Then you would have
hopefully.
November, December, and if you wanted to do any special meetings in there, you could do that. And I mean, because you also have to give a little time for, you know, if during the public hearings you decide to change something, I mean, I have to be able to get in there and update the document, change it, but, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, after the draft comes out in August-ish, we'll track changes from then on to make it sort of easier in the end, decide what we're gonna accept or not accept.
And last, public input is very important in the P O C D. We welcome that.
So you'll have two more opportunities to provide public input, or two more public hearings, so. Those public hearings could be multiple months, but you know, you'll have opportunities at two more public hearings. To comment on it, so I would encourage everybody to read it when it gets up there. It'll be up on the P O C D steering committee website. As soon as I get it done.
And last, public comments will be taken seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Nothing. Sally.
The design review board did not meet. So I've
Okay.
been,
Communications.
I don't have any specific, no.
Okay. Let's go to public comments then. Anything that is not concerning items number 6A and 6B. Oh, if you could be recognized, you need to identify yourself by name and your address for the record, and we would appreciate that. Eric, if you'd like to.
Thank you. I ask you to hand these out, please. Thank you. I'm Eric Rosenberg, 15 Bay Road. I'm chairing the Commission on Aging for the past 3.5 years. And I've written a letter to Planning and Zoning Commission, which unfortunately didn't get through to you for some snafu. But I wanted to read that off for the record and start a dialogue between the Commission on Aging and Planning and Zoning. This would just be a brief introduction to it. So, dear East Hartford Planning and Zoning Board, Commission and town planning official, I write to you on behalf of the Commission on Aging, which I chair. When the COA was formed by the town council that was charged with determining and advocating for the needs of older adults in our town. For many years, we have had a working group on housing, currently headed by Cindy Craig, who would wish to be here tonight and could not be. Our survey of older adults' needs showed a very strong interest in affordable housing, including accessory dwelling units or ADUs, which we continue to support. Based on those results, we worked with town planning official Jeremy DeCarly to hold a public information session April 15th of 2023 on ADUs along with home restoration and the USDA Home Improvements Loan and Grant Program. Recently, we invited Juliette Hodge to our meeting to discuss ADUs, a topic that we both support. On a 6-to-1 vote, we passed the following resolution on May 14th, that the Commission on Aging initiate a resolution to support lifting barriers to allowing ADUs in all zones. And that should be residential zones. Now we would like to open a dialogue with you towards making progress in this area. Please contact either me, information below, or Cindy Craig. Thank you for your service to this town, Eric. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. We had some, Juliet, we had some preliminary discussions on this.
Yeah, and I had given, I think I've shown the whole board, but I had given you specifically that. The
Yes.
potential. Changes to the reg to consider, and I will say that throughout the P O C D process, the support for ADUs is also. Exactly how he describes it. It's a low hanging fruit to get a little more housing without disrupting the characters of the neighborhoods, so.
So it is in progress already. We just need to continue.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
Just one more thing to say is there's a number of people are also here for ADU issues tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Anybody else would like to speak from the public? Okay, anybody on Zoom?
Nobody's raising their, did you wanna say anything?
Just that we would hope to have it on, Old Colchester Avenue.
Okay, if you could just identify yourself, name and,
I'm, Lawrence the homeowner, my daughter, Patricia Nielsen. 32 Colchester Avenue,
okay, and your comment is,
that we are hoping to, get permission to have an ADU at our address. I'm told that our zone
They're in the R2
doesn't
zone.
allow.
thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
We've had a lot of people come in, actually.
yes,
Actually, more so than normal lately, probably, but
I don't remember why we initially excluded R2, do you know what?
I don't.
I know we had a discussion on,
Jim?
it was kind of a mixed bag on why we wanted
Didn't
to
put it-
restrict certain zones, but
What was this again?
for accessory dwelling units, in-law apartments and stuff like that.
That's where we have that right now,
Yeah, but limited to certain zones.
but we have it with the exception of RU2, which is a single family. We left that out. However, they did have it such that you could have a board type.
Yeah.
That
Temporary
that you could have, and because one question was what happens when the older person leaves? And the board would be removed at that particular time,
I think the idea now that it's for all ages.
and the reason that we had it at the time for the RU2 is that the people that lived in RU2 formed RU2. A lot of it was the idea that they didn't want duplexes at that particular time. It was just before I moved to town, to tell the truth. And the zone that I was in would change to an RU2 for that particular reason.
And do our regulations still require a public hearing for ADUs?
Oh, yeah. It really needs to change. I mean, there's so many people that. Want, especially after COVID, want opportunities to either bring their elderly family member in. Or allow their child to live on the property, but also, taxes are high. And having an apartment is a way to generate income if you rent it out long term. You can put in regulations at the same time to say something like short-term rentals can't be. Can't utilize an AD, or, you could put some restriction there. That was the only comment that I got, that the only concern that was raised during the neighborhood meetings, I think it was, when we talked about it, but. Other than that, it's, they're small.
I
They're no
probably
brainer.
had some rules, like it had to be a relative or something like that.
Right, you can't, that's not enforceable. The state doesn't support that. The state supports ADUs on any property that currently has a single family house, regardless of where it is. Provided that you meet your lot coverages and setbacks if it's a detached unit or you have to put in an addition or something. And your septic is sized appropriately. I mean, there are other rules that limit not everybody could do it. But it does not recommend that you have like some of the acreage requirements that you have now that don't really make any sense. That if you have a house on your property, it's a single family house and you want an in-law apartment and you can fit it, or an accessory dwelling unit and you can fit it above your garage, which is where they usually go, or in your basement, then you should be allowed to do it, because the goal of the state is to increase housing opportunities, housing choice. And most people don't want apartment buildings, so you can allow one apartment in somebody's house is not, is better than building an apartment building on it, so.
We've already started taking a look at that, and it's not ready for publication at this particular point. but we have to discuss it.
Yeah.
I will make one comment on the thing. We did have several sessions to put that together so that you did have accessory units, that you could use your house and set a section, and we've had some, I don't know, a few people that have taken advantage of that, and we've granted that they can have it.
Yes.
In that particular zone. One of them was our chairman at the time of the.
Yes.
of the-
Yeah, your R2 zone is your biggest
But we
zone.
had sizes too, because we said, at that time, there was some thought about, well, if you make it real big, okay, there's gonna be a lot more population too, you have families and all that type of stuff, so it wasn't just for elderly, it was all over, but you had to have a certain size.
Originally it was 900. I don't know what our regulations are right now.
900 right now.
Still
I'm
900.
proposing for it to go up to 1200, but
And we looked at a lot of other.
Gross floor area.
With the value that we had, but we even modified that, so maybe we could get it a little bit bigger. Cause we counted some things, we didn't count things as living area.
The problem is you do effectively turn a single home neighborhood into a multi-home neighborhood. 1,200 square feet is not a small, that's about the size of my house.
gross floor area, yeah.
Yeah,
We can do it.
I got
living
two
area,
houses.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just, that's gonna materially alter single-family residential neighborhoods if everybody tries to do
but
it.
everybody won't, and that's the point. It's not.
But
it's not
it
everybody
would be
can
good to maybe think about like, maybe it's like so many feet like we keep it 900 standard, but if the existing dwelling is a certain size, then maybe you can go up. That way there's always a primary
Julia
residence.
just put together something that addresses some of that.
That's
And
good.
parking's important, cause I have one in my neighborhood and like I could show you pictures of driving up my road, like it's. An ambulance wouldn't be able to make it up my street
Mhm.
most nights,
That's not everybody's.
yeah,
We
no, I
can't, we
know.
can't regulate parking.
I'm just saying, it's something that you have to keep in mind when you're gonna have more than one house on a property that wasn't designed for it.
Okay, but Angela, it's not more than one house. It's more
It
than one-
is.
No, it's not. That's not true. It's more than one dwelling unit. And there's a big difference between two houses on a lot. Where one is, they're both big, a duplex can be
be taxed, right?
two houses.
Two
theoretically.
homes,
But it's
two
one
residences.
main house and one small house, though. It has not been found to alter the character.
And yes, it warrants a lot more discussion.
But there's a lot of support with it on the P O C D, so that will be a goal in the P O C D.
So what do we need? Someone to put in a request for a regulation change?
I've already written it, so you can just take it and submit it at any time. So,
Okay.
or a member of the public could, but like I said, it is discussed in the P O C D. It is being moved forward as a goal to adopt.
So there's only one area in town
Sir?
that's residential,
Could you give us your name and
Robert Moran, 32 Colchester Avenue, Sanford.
go ahead?
So there's only one area in town that's considered residential where you can't put these?
There's
Julia?
4 residential zones, R1, R2, R3, and R4. R2 is the only zone that it's not allowed in.
Why is that?
Mystery.
Why is that?
There's a lot of discussion on that, a lot of background on that. And we could spend probably another 2 hours on the thinking of it. But we are in the midst of revisiting all of that based on both what the pressures from the state as well as requests from townspeople, as well as visiting it in the P O C D. So you're asking a very valid question, and it's a really long answer,
If it's,
but it's
it
basically,
can't be the only residential area that. In all East Hampton.
It's not the only area, it's the zone. The zone can exist in multiple areas in the town. It's the zone that it was restricted in.
not the entire town,
Yeah.
just that zone.
It does happen to be the biggest residential zone.
So why don't we have a request for regulation change in? Get it on the agenda.
Because
We've
that's up
been a
to
little
you guys.
busy up to this point.
It's ready whenever you are. We have it. It's ready to go.
That way it can, I assume it would have to go to public comment.
Public hearing.
public hearing. Uh, And it still requires, Chatham Health requirements. Setback requirements,
Lot coverage,
lot coverage.
height.
Now, if you're gonna turn your basement into a, in-law apartment, ADU, that would, solve a lot of problems, except for Chatham Health.
I mean, you can only do it if you're connected to public sewer or your septic system is big enough. This is why not everybody does it, because if your septic system isn't big enough, or you want a detached unit, it's expensive. Not everybody can, it'd be like $100,000 if by the time it's done. So most times it ends up, like I said, in a basement or very commonly above a garage. So the structure's already there, nothing really materially changes, right? It's already there.
So
This is
let's,
going to be a lot longer discussion than we can address this evening. But we have to put in an application, which I would suggest we do it. Put an
Yes.
application for
I
it.
can get that ready. I mean, we have it, so.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else in the public? Okay, with that, could you read the legal notice?
Town of East Hampton Planning and Zoning Commission, notice is hereby given that the East Hampton Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing at their meeting on Wednesday, July 1st, 2026 at 6:30 PM at the East Hampton Town Hall, 1 Community Drive, room 107, and via Zoom, to consider PZC 26-006 West High Enterprises LLC, 12 Long Crossing Road, 2-lot re-subdivision. Written on, supposed to be 12 Long Crossing Road and 207 West High Street. 2-lot re-subdivision and PZC 26-007 Town of East Hampton, PZC text amendments to multiple sections to comply with middle housing and parking requirements and Public Act 25-1.
Okay, is the applicant here?
Evening. Wayne Rand, 244 Middletown Avenue.
Lift it up a little bit and speak into it, please.
244 Middletown Avenue.
Thank you.
This is a 2-lot subdivision, I read Juliet's notes on this, and she is pretty much dead on everything. I don't know if I could ask the chairman if she could present this week,
Okay,
basically read their notes, or I would know through it.
okay, before you go away, what I would do is, if it's okay with you, if you could summarize it for us, and the staff memo was very thorough, which I appreciate. I would just like that into the record, please.
Use the mic. So essentially, I asked him to come forward to get this done. So there was when Coco's was built, the daycare, it was built on a lot that already had a single family house, which is a principal use. So we ended up with 2 principal uses on a lot, which is not proper. You didn't have mixed use regulations at the time, so I'm not sure. I wasn't here, so I have no idea, what the circumstances were. It's fine. But it seemed to me that that particular lot lent itself to be split so that the Coco's daycare could be a legal existing conforming lot with its access off of Long Crossing, and the house could be its own legally existing lot with its access off of West High Street. So, the house, the residential use is a non-conforming use in a commercial zone. This would make it a lot easier for that house to convert to an office, maybe, like some of the lawyers' offices are in houses. It would get a lot more flexibility for that parcel and make it a lot easier to sell one. If you go to sell, or if anything had changed hands, it would be pretty difficult with a house and a commercial business on the same lot. So I asked him to go to ZBA to get the necessary variances to make the house lot legal. Just because, where the existing fence is for the daycare, that seemed to be the logical line to make the new property line. that caused the need for a reduction in the rear yard setback and the lot size and lot depth, I think, with the three variances that were given. So, to me, it makes sense. It cleans up sort of a situation that probably shouldn't have happened to begin with. And again, gives it a little more flexibility of use or transferring the property in the future. He does have to comply with some Chatham Health requirements. The septic system, the existing septic system for the house, so there are two septic systems on the property. But, you know, because we wanted to keep that fence line as the property line, the leach field encroaches a little bit on to the Coco property. So Wayne is in the process of getting a B100A approved to abandon the existing septic system and relocating it farther away from the property line. So that application is in progress. I talked to Liz today. She said, you know, in concept, it will work. So I would you saw in my memo, I put a condition of approval that obviously the B100 be complied with and any conditions be complied with before he filed the minors.
Thank you. I'm just gonna read in the bullet points that you have, that it's located in the C zone. It's 2.09 acres. The currently houses a single family home, which is legal non-conforming, contains no wetlands, has 2 lanes of frontage, Route 66 and Long Crossing, and is bounded by a commercial zone to the east and west, and the R2 zone to the north across Route 66 and the south across Long Crossing Road. If I'm going too fast for any of this for you, tell me to slow down. Okay, or repeat. Okay. Anything else, Julia?
No, so I wholeheartedly support this split. Please approve this to clean up that, you know, that issue on those two properties. It really makes sense, you know, for everybody involved.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from commission? Okay, this is a public hearing. Any members of the public wish to speak on this? This seems to me to be straightforward and actually helps clean up some of the issues that we have on this particular piece of property.
I will mention one thing,
Yes,
is that when they did come to the zoning board of appeals, there wasn't anyone that voiced anything against the idea of change.
okay. With that, then I'd be looking
I
for.
think you do have one comment.
Oh, yes, sir.
My name is John Forbes. I live at 205 West High Street. And the only question I have is I asked Wayne and spoke to him earlier, which he's gonna address. I was just thinking about where the system would be put in. I have a well that's 75 feet away from there. And I was just wanted to make sure that there wouldn't be any problems with drainage or anything. That's all.
Okay,
Health code requires a certain separation.
Right, that's what he told me, and I just, you know, I was satisfied and, cause I'm sure they wouldn't pass anything that could. And he always works with me and there's no problem there, but I figured I would just say something, you know.
good. It's part of the record, and Chatham Health, to their credit, is incredibly diligent about these things.
Right, he assured me of that, I spoke to him earlier and I trust everything he does, so. You know, that the town does.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I am looking for a motion to close the public hearing for PZC 26006 West High Enterprises LLC 12 Long Crossing Road, 2-lot re-subdivision map 12 block 36, lot 2. Public hearing is tonight. Do I have that motion from anybody?
So moved.
Jim B, yeah. Do I have a second, Sally?
Yeah, go ahead, second.
Okay, I have a second from Sally. Then with that, I'm looking for a motion to approve PZC 26006 West High Enterprises.
First motion.
I'm sorry?
Need to vote on the first motion.
Oh, that might help, wouldn't it? We have a motion on the floor and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. Thank you for catching that. I'm now looking for a motion to approve PZC 26006. West High Street Enterprises LLC, 12 Long Touching Road, 2-lot re-subdivision, map 12, block 36, lot 2. For the following reasons, that the proposed split has been made possible by dimensional variances granted by the ZBA, and that the application complies with applicable zoning and subdivision regulations with the following conditions. Any conditions imposed by Chatham Health regarding the existing and proposed septic system serving the existing single-family house must be satisfied prior to the filing of the Mylars. Who would like to make that motion? Michael, thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second from Jim. Comments, discussion on the motion?
I just have a quick question. Where's the variance information on what was approved?
On the site plan itself. I think you added the map, the approval letter to the site plan.
And what was the variance approved?
For the rear yard setback. For the house portion. For the lot depth, rear yard setback and,
What setback was the variance sought on though?
the rear.
The rear of what?
The front.
So you're creating two lots, so
But aren't the setback requirements different for commercial and residential?
it's all commercial. It's a commercially zoned,
But the variance was sought under commercial setback or under residential setback?
commercial, because it's a commercial property.
Okay,
So it doesn't matter what the use is, it's the.
that's what I want to
commercial
make sure.
zone
It's just
has
weird,
setback.
it's a house, that's all. Make sure that it was based on commercial, just
Yeah,
sounds like it
you're right.
was. Okay.
Any further comments or questions?
No.
Hearing then, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to, now this is a text amendment for us. This is in response to Public Act 25-1. And this is the whole middle housing thing. And Juliet has a short presentation for us. Or if you'd like, you could make it into a long presentation. Okay.
I have an extra one. All right, so I know a lot of you have gone to sessions on this, or I've sent out emails and whatnot. Talking about this Public Act 25-1. The changes that this act are requiring are effective today. This is when the bill is effective. So we're a little bit behind, but it should be fine. So basically, this is a very short version of what this bill is requiring. So basically, the state is focused on housing. So they're requiring that towns allow what is called middle housing to be permitted by right, meaning site plan approval only in existing commercial zones or existing mixed use zones. Towns can opt to allow middle housing in residential zones, and if you do that, you do get bonus points towards a moratorium against, the 830G statute. So you get an extra quarter point per unit if you did allow it in residential zones. We aren't proposing that tonight because we hadn't really discussed that. The changes that were made were done by the consultants that were hired by the River Cog. Every cog got money to help towns get through this process because the state didn't give us very much time to get these regulations adopted. The other thing that impacts us that this regulation or this Public Act requires is that we can't require off-street parking for developments with 16 or fewer units in it. And everybody panicked about that one. That requirement is really meant for urban towns. There is no way that a developer will put in a housing development in a rural or suburban town without providing parking because nobody will rent the unit. I mean, it's not, I don't even think Wayne might be able to answer this. I don't even think a construction lender would give you money for that. I mean, it's just so unlikely that would happen. So towns that might have bus line or a public transit, like a subway or something nearby, this is more geared to. Either way, towns are allowed to, create districts where you are allowed to require parking, and I'll get to that in a minute. You can do the next slide. But people ask, why is the state so focused on housing right now? And the chart you can see on the screen, we haven't kept up with new housing units being built since 1997 after the crash, there was a housing, it was an all-time high, and then there was that huge crash, as we recall. And we've never come back to that pre-level of number of units being built. You can see, we're way below what we used to create. So that's not keeping pace. It's like 1.4 versus 3.1 before, so it's way behind. And then on top of that, the demographics in the country have changed and the household sizes are dropping. So there's so many more single family or single head of households out there, or the divorce rate is higher, so that you need two houses now for the former husband and wife, so to speak. So there's a lot more demand for smaller units than we are building, and developers are still building or pointing out large McMansions and beautiful subdivisions, but that's not really the housing product that we need. And so you can go to the next slide. So not only are we not building as many units, the demographics are changing, putting a great demand on more units, but zoning hasn't caught up. So towns are still restricting any kind of multifamily housing or duplexes or ADUs. And that's causing problems because we aren't getting the number of units that we desperately need. And so parking mandates are another thing that prevents these developments from happening, because parking happens to be quite expensive to put in. And so if you have these, parking demands of 3 spots per unit, that's a pretty expensive parking lot, as you all found out during budget time, how much a parking lot costs to actually install. All right, so the next slide. So the state thought that these 2 to 9 units, it's not that many units, not that sort of intrusive, was a good way to provide a different type of housing unit, like multifamily apartment styles. They sort of become this naturally affordable unit. There is no affordability restriction on these middle housing, which I thought was a little strange when the statute came through, because we're going to be adding more and more units, and it makes it harder to get to that 10%. That's something that we might want to think about. You guys might want to think about later, whether or not you want to require in mixed use or multifamily developments that some component of it be affordable. But right now, that's not the case. The point is, it'll just add housing units, and when you get extra units on the market, naturally the prices will kind of stabilize. And like I said, reducing parking just saves money. Next slide. So again, the name, if you have read the statute, it's called Transit Community Middle Housing. It has nothing to do with transit. I don't know why that's in the name, but that's what it is. But it's just basically a development that's either mixed use or just multifamily 2 to 9 units. So you can do either. Some towns have interpreted the statute to be either or. You can either allow mixed use or you can allow multifamily 2 to 9, but it doesn't, that is not the intent of the statute. They did try to fix that in the last session, but nothing got voted on. But because they allow, you can see cottage clusters, those are detached residential units. It's meant to be either, or it's meant to be both of them. Towns can decide. Next slide. Summary review, the state's calling it summary review. That's basically just site plan approval. It means no public hearing, no discretionary conditions, things like that. Does it meet the regulations or not? You can, quite frankly, you can have it so that the zoning official can approve these, but most towns are just sticking to have it come before the commission. It's a site plan review. That means your site development standards still apply. You can apply landscaping requirements, lot coverage, building height, all of those things can still apply. You can add different supplemental regulations, the only thing you can't do is make it so difficult that nobody could afford to put this housing in. You can't say these developments have to have granite curving around their parking lots and 7 Japanese maples and, you know, something like that. It has to be, the conditions have to be reasonable, or the site development standards have to be reasonable. Next slide. And then the one thing I said we could do, you can designate certain areas in your town as parking mitigation districts, and I think they're called conservation and something districts in the state statute. We're gonna call them parking mitigation districts, where it can't be any more than 4% of your total land area. Usually you would want to pick areas that where off-street parking would not be a good idea. In the case of East Hampton, it was pretty easy because very little of your land is actually zoned commercial, where these middle housing developments are allowed. So we just encompassed all of your commercial zones, the village and the area around the lake where you have, you know, very small lots. Even though that's a residential zone, I think, you know, there's a couple commercial spots still showing on your zoning map, but we've just designated all of that anyway. So every development will have to have some amount of parking. So in that traffic mitigation district, the most you can require are studios, 1 bedroom, and 2 spots for anything greater than 2 bedroom. So studios and 1 bedroom, 1 parking space, 2 bedrooms and more, 2 parking spaces. If at any time a developer comes in and for some reason, I don't foresee this happening here, but for some reason they feel that they don't need to put in all of that parking, they can do a parking assessment, needs assessment, and you know, argue that less parking is needed, but I don't even want to talk about it because it's just not going to happen here. So next slide.
That's the last one.
That's it. Okay. So in your packets, and one other thing that was in this this last bill was that we used to have that requirement that says mobile homes have to be treated just like a single family house, but they had a requirement that only applied to mobile homes with their narrowest dimension at 22 feet. That was taken out. So single wide mobile homes are to be treated just like houses at this point.
Which means they have all the same requirements and restrictions.
Yeah, which there aren't any, but they're allowed. I mean, any lot, but you have to treat it like, just like you would treat a single family house.
Can I ask one more question about the parking? I just want to make sure I'm understanding, we're talking, the last parking information that you gave us. This is off-street parking that can be required in these situations, even though it's not off-street, on-street parking.
Yes, I mean, if you don't require on-site parking, they have to park off-site.
Right, and that, okay.
So we have to allow that. Sometimes you can get around this entirely by passing a town ordinance that says, you know, no on-street parking in certain areas, but I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
I think that aspect will not be an issue here. So the changes in the regulations themselves, obviously we added definitions in there for cottage cluster, middle housing residential, and mixed use middle housing. And the reason we differentiate mixed use middle housing from just mixed use is because you do have mixed use regulations in place today that are that can be more than 16 or more than the 2 to 9 units. I mean, you already have that. That's by special permit, a little bit different. So I just wanted to make sure we differentiated between the two. This middle housing, whether it's mixed use or standalone middle housing, will be allowed by site plan approval only versus, and be limited to 2 to 9 units versus mixed use, which can be residential, commercial in one building or residential, commercial in separate buildings. That's allowed by special permit in certain zones. So they're 2 separate things. So we define them differently. And the mixed use middle housing and middle housing residential sort of have their own section in the supplemental regs as well.
We know which towns are taking the approach of just mixed use housing.
I don't, not off the top of my head, but
But if it's just a matter of interpretation, why was a legislative fix proposed?
to clarify that they meant both. So it wasn't so much of this language is unclear, and if I have, one webinar that I watched again, I mean, this is Mark Brantz, who's sort of the housing guru, he can't even answer the questions. A lot of what's in the statute's gonna be argued out in the courts eventually, and case law will determine how we move forward on certain things. I can't answer all of the questions here or why, but certain things, the town, you take your stance, you put it in, if a developer challenges it, then the courts will decide, but we're taking the position that either or are allowed for the middle housing, so 2 to 9 units standalone, just multifamily, or mixed use with 2 to 9 units above, residential above commercial in existing commercial zones, and it would be allowed in DD zone to your what is it? Office, the professional office slash
PO office.
research, yeah.
But if we went mixed use, it would decrease the areas in town that these types of developments could occur, right?
No,
It wouldn't?
no, they're allowed in all of your commercial zones. Like I said, your DD zone and your POR. Right now, as of today. So we added that section 8.4V, that's in your supplemental regs. Like I said, you're allowed to have supplemental regs. Tonight you can discuss adding different ones or not requiring all these. But basically, it's just giving the parameters of middle housing, what the requirements are. So I think we put in a couple things like equipment and service areas, like the mechanical equipment shall be screened from the streets. There is a buffer requirement of at least 25 feet along the sides and the rears of the property, which is more than what you would normally get in your commercial zone. It's only 6 feet or 15 feet if you're near residential. So it's a little bit more buffering. And then there's always the clause that no middle housing development shall be approved if found to be substantially impact public health and safety. That's the part that's gonna be argued on, I'm sure, in the courts, like what constitutes
This is going to be
Oh, I know,
argued in the courts,
yeah,
going through, same thing, between the webinars and actually talking to a couple of lawyers.
and they can't answer it right now.
They can't answer it. I know that this was done in conjunction with IMEG. And I know that.
Yeah.
This was done and taking a look at what they said, taking a look at what you have done. I think this is a great product right now, and we know we're gonna end up changing in the future.
Yeah, the next session, legislative session, they hope to fix some of the, seriously confusing elements of it.
Which means we're gonna end up changing our regulations.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is all the towns in the region used IMEG, to do this, so at least in your region, all of your regulations will look the same, we'll be doing the same things, so.
For the mobile home, so they'll be able to drop 9 mobile homes on a piece of commercial property
No, and that's one of the ones a lot of us did ask, that's not a cottage cluster development. A mobile home is still a single family home, so it's 2 to 9 units, right, so. It has to at least have 2 in it, you know what I mean, so. The cottage cluster they're just a different animal, they're defined, but no, is the answer I got pretty consistently, no, you couldn't have 9 mobile homes on a commercial property. You could have that on a residential property under 830G though, that is definitely possible. And happening with a little more frequency. One thing I did add that was not as something optional. And I added it in because of its better design, trying to keep these developments attractive. I had given a provision, I have to find it, sorry. Basically, it says if one of these developments were to come in, if the developer would put the parking behind the building rather than in front, which I mean, I'm thinking of your commercial zones where this could come in. A lot of your residential zones abut a lot of your commercial zones abut residential in some way, and so. It's better to have the building closer to the road and the parking behind it than the parking in front and the building setback, because that's not. You know, the residential pattern is house, driveway, garage to the back or to the side, you know, it's not. You don't usually see everybody parking in front of their house in a residential district, so to try to keep it sort of. In character with the surrounding areas, I gave a provision that says. If parking is located to the rear of a building fronting on a town road, the front yard setback may be reduced to a minimum of 25 feet. And this reduced front setback area must be landscaped with a mixture of trees, plants, shrubs sufficient to provide effective year-round screening, so it would have you know, it would have to be nicely landscaped to provide additional buffering for the residential neighborhood that's nearby. And it looks better. So it's better to have the parking in the rear. So that is something that I had added in as a possibility for you to consider in the site development standards specific to middle housing only. That doesn't apply to everybody. That's specific to the middle housing development. Everybody else has to, unless you want to change it for everybody else. You don't have that in your regular site development standards. So I don't know, does anybody else have any questions? I mean, the changes are pretty straightforward. Just adding them to the table of uses, adding the definitions and adding the site development standards, and then adjusting the parking requirements. And then after and agreeing to the transit district. So in your packet, that map on the end, that shows the parking management district. So you can see how much of your developed area is gonna be captured under that anyway. So you will be allowed to require a certain amount of off-street parking for that.
We are under the time constraint just because this is how the state legislature has put it, so we are under pressure tonight to pass this. I know it's going to be changed, and I think we need to recognize that, but at the same time, going through it, each individual item and changing things. I don't think it's fruitful for this evening. But if somebody has anything specific. If we could take a look at it, I've gone through it all. And I'm satisfied with what Julia has done, what IMEG has recommended, and also going through the original 8002 HB, and also going through the actual text of the Public Act. I think this meets it. I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like we've hit all of the requirements that we need to do.
And you're gonna be updating your zoning requirements after the P O C D, so. This gets you in compliance with the statute. You can, like I said, you can consider other site development standards specific to middle housing if you want to. And then you can introduce them when you do the bigger zone change for the P O C D.
Is this going to just apply to the area that you're showing on this map? In the rest of town, you can't do it.
It only applies to the commercial and mixed use zones. So in your case, it would be your commercial zone, your village commercial, your POR and your DD district.
We have on mixed use. This is a mixed use right here, right?
Yeah, this is a
Yes,
mixed use
zone
zone,
right
yeah.
here. But other parts of the DD zone isn't mixed.
But it's a commercial zone.
Huh?
It's considered a commercial
Is
zone.
it all commercial? I mean, like, from the other side of going towards Marlboro, you have the part that's affordable housing one, there's one.
Hampton Woods.
Piece line, does it apply to that one?
Yep.
It does apply to that one. Does it apply to all the DD zone?
Actually, the Hampton Woods one is a housing opportunity. That's an overlay, so it wouldn't necessarily apply there.
Yeah,
That's a different.
Professional office residential isn't commercial, right?
Isn't it professional office research?
I thought it was, I thought POR was allowing professional offices in residential.
No, I don't think so. That's a commercial zone. It's
It's
said in
professional
here.
or residential, so.
In your VC zone. Your C zone, your POR
Professional
zone,
office slash residential.
it's still, that's a mixed use zone then. It's still considered mixed use, you allow both residential and commercial in it.
No, it doesn't allow commercial, it allows a professional office.
That's commercial. So it applies, and the DD zone also applies. And then in your mixed use development zone, it obviously applies because it's a mixed use zone, so. The statute said this is applicable to all commercial and mixed use zones. Which was a big question I had originally, more so for my own town, because I sit on their planning and zoning commission. A lot of towns have residential districts that allow a lot of non-residential uses in them. And my concern was the state was gonna consider that, or through case law, that those zones would be absorbed in, because technically they allow a mix of uses, but so far it's not being interpreted that way. And in this town, the only zones that apply are the ones I listed.
But this map that we see here. There's other zones in here, like RU2, is in one little section over here, right?
R2 it is, but, that map that you're looking at is the parking mitigation district map. That's all that map is depicting.
Okay.
That's the area where we can, despite the statute, require parking.
Okay.
It's section L.
This is strictly the parking.
Yeah,
So,
and it's,
so this regulation that we're talking about right here. Applies to the commercial and the mixed use.
your,
And the DD zone.
your commercial zone, your village commercial, POR and DD and your mud district as well. So with the traffic mitigation, we just tried to capture at least all the commercial zones. And I think it goes down into the historic district a little bit, but, just try to capture the areas where parking is dicey right now. I mean, the roads are pretty narrow around the lake and things like that, but there are commercial districts along 66 and there's that little commercial area around the lake, but because towns can also allow this in residential districts, we figured we'd just be proactive and highlight the areas that you would really need to have off-street parking, no matter what. And left out some of the industrial areas because up until recently, I don't know if that new law is gonna go through, that was pretty shocking. We might see in a year or two that this has to apply to your industrial zones too, which would be bad.
Insane.
That would be.
Okay. Any further comments before I open this up to the public? Yes.
Yeah, I have a question or a request. Could you just clarify the change for the approval process?
So all it's saying is that if an application comes in for the mixed use middle housing or middle
Right.
housing, that you can't hold a public hearing. So it's gonna follow effectively the site plan approval process, which is administrative only. There is no discretion. Except for that overall out of public health and safety, you can prove some glaring potential problem that will risk the health of residents or something. Yes, you could deny it, but for the most part, you look at the development, you look at your site plan requirements, your site development standards. If it meets all the requirements, you have to say yes. You can't have conditions on approval. It's either it meets it or it doesn't. That's why I'm saying if you want to think about this in the next couple months, if there's any particular additional site development standards you want to add, you are welcome to do that, so. I don't know what they would be, but, you know. If we develop design guidelines, for example, we might have them apply to this as well.
But it's administrative, it's not a
Administrative.
public issue.
You cannot hold a public hearing on it. You may not do it.
Got it.
So it's probably prudent, we should pass this as is. But we will be revisiting the parking requirements.
Absolutely.
Only reason I'm saying this is I had a chance to drive through my childhood neighborhood last week. And I'd say there's 22 and 3 bedroom duplexes on one side of the street and 22 and 3 duplexes on the other side of the street. And there was enough parking for one space per duplex. And the street was lined on one side and lined on the other side. And as I was going through, I was so worried that a child was gonna dart out in traffic. Speed limit was 25, and I don't think I got up to 15 miles an hour tops. So we will be revisiting off-street parking.
Right, so we're not, I mean, we can rest easy, this isn't allowed in residential zones. You can't do one of these developments in a residential zone at all. So it's only allowed in commercial areas. And because of the way we drew that traffic mitigation district, you will always be allowed to require at least one parking space per studio and 1 bedroom and 2 parking spaces for other. You can request more. I mean, there's nothing, that was another question that came up. I mean, does it really say you can't have in your requirements that you require 4 spots? But what the developer will do is submit a parking needs assessment, and if he can prove that he doesn't need that many, then he doesn't.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Any members of the public wish to speak on this? Do we have anybody in Zoom? Okay, please identify yourself for the record.
Wayne Rand for the record, 244 Middletown Avenue. I don't really have too many comments about this proposed change, except that it's kind of funny how we got here in the first place. The state's kind of taken over, and 830G, which allows for more public housing and housing opportunities, is a failure in this state, and it hasn't done well. Subdivisions, they've been doing them for 40 years in this town. They are a thing of the past. You cannot, unless you have serious road frontage, you cannot, between the regulations that we have intact and infrastructure costs, you cannot put residential subdivisions in. You're gonna lose money. So something has to change. This is a step forward, I guess. I'm not sure it's the answer, because we need a lot more than this. We need some serious regulation changes to allow for the times and to make things affordable for people around here. I figure there's at least a 50 to 100 lot shortage in this town right now, and every year after. And we gotta do something, and we can't build roads and make it work anymore. Infrastructure costs are upwards of $1,000 a linear foot. You can't do a cul-de-sac with 150 feet of frontage. You have to look at different options, and that's open space subdivisions and whatnot. But there's a lot of serious review of our zoning regulations to fix these problems. One of the ones in a commercial zone, we have, they can build 3 elderly housing per acre. It doesn't work. I mean, we need to fix these regulations. So, to bring in developers, and I'm at the end of my road here, so hopefully in that year, you don't see me anymore. But But, to attract other people, you're gonna have to change these regulations. You're gonna have to do something to compensate for the infrastructure costs. And this is one way to do it, I guess, to me, it doesn't go far enough. It starts out at the commercial, why not expand that to the residential in certain cases? Like, maybe you have to have 50 acres or whatnot. But you should be able to do that, the same thing, a complex like this on a residential in certain areas. That's all my comments.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess you would get extra points for a duplex technically. Wherever duplex is allowed, because that's a 2 units that could count as middle.
It's not spelled out though in the regulations.
I mean,
No, I mean, it's not spelled out in not our regulations, the state regs.
I might ask an attorney that, because I was thinking about that the other day, where it just count, like you get it, just get a quarter point, whatever.
Anybody else?
You can't seem to see people online, so I would say if you are online and have a comment, I would just try to unmute and
Speak.
speak.
No better?
Or try to the raise your hand function to see if we see it.
Can you see the chat? Is there anybody in the chat saying anything? Or?
It disappeared, so I don't know where that window went to.
What are host tools?
Okay. With that,
Oh,
seem to have lost it. Okay. With that, I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing for PZC 26 rather, -007, Town of East Hampton PZC text amendment to multiple sections to comply with middle housing and parking requirements in Public Act 25-1. Can I have that motion from somebody?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion from Sally. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second from Bob. Any comments or discussion on the motion to close the public hearing? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so moved. Next, I would be looking for a motion to approve PZC 26-007, Town of East Hampton, PZC, text amendments to multiple sections to comply with middle housing and parking requirements in Public Act 25-1.
So moved.
I have a motion from Bob. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Sally. Comments or discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? So moved. A new business.
I would just say, on your behalf, we have to send a letter to the Secretary of OPM designating those traffic mitigation districts, so I have that in the GIS data that the requirements are requiring, so I'm gonna send that on your behalf.
Thank you. New business, what we're looking to do on the next one is, this is PZC 26009, Skinner Street Properties LLC, special permit to provide for additional mixed use, commercial and industrial uses of 46 Skinner Street, East Hampton, Connecticut 06024. Map 20, block 48C, lot 17A. What we're looking to do here is accept the application, which is in our packets. And I've managed to get anything, yeah, okay, here it is. What we're looking to do is we're looking to accept this. Can you give us a little more background on this, please?
Yeah, because this is the same one that came up over a year ago. We were going through certain properties to see that had been awarded a special permit or with an approved special permit, but hadn't submitted or filed a Mylar associated with it. This was one of those properties. It came up because there was an enforcement issue on the property. I researched it. I'm like, oh my God, the map was never filed. No Mylar was filed, which problem. The enforcement has been cleared up. The tenants actually moved out. So I suggested to the owner that he come in, modify. He had some different ideas of what he wanted to do. So I said, come in, modify your special permit. modify the site plan, and then when it's all said and done, they will both get filed properly and everything will be legit. So part of this involves a lot line adjustment as well, to add more land to the original parcel and to be able to provide a little bit more parking. And the original special permit was for a motor vehicle repair and sales, I believe.
Yes.
This is gonna expand to just allowing mixed use, multiple tenants in the building. There's, the way the building is, there's a lower floor and an upper floor, so there could be two tenants. That's what it is. It did take a year to get the site plan, so happy it came in before I left.
So what I'd like to do is have a motion. In fact, Michael, why don't you make the motion? It's right here.
I move to accept application PZC 26009 Skinner Street Properties LLC. Special permit modification to provide for additional mixed-use, commercial and industrial uses. 46 Skinner Street, East Hampton, Connecticut, 06424. Map 20, lot 48, C, lot 17A, and to set a public hearing for Wednesday, August 5th, 2026 at 6:30 PM in the town hall and via Zoom.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Bob. Any comments? Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? So moved. Old business. Okay, staff report.
So
Thank you for that report.
this is my last meeting with you physically. I have I think the job posting for my position closed today. You only got 2 applicants. One, amusingly, is somebody I've worked with in Ledger. I don't think you knew Alex. He wasn't there. Alex Samlot was a CEO that I had hired, but he was one of your applicants. The other one didn't have planning experience per se, so I'm not sure if Dave is going to interview these folks or not, but those are the only 2 that applied. I will put it out on the listserv. That's the group of planners. We have a email chat thing to see if I can drum up anybody. I think Dave is looking into IMEG as a potential for supplying a consultant planner if need be. Tyke Planning was not able to do it. They don't have the capacity to take on another town. So in light of that, I have offered to work remotely, to the extent I can, probably only like 10 hours a week. I am gonna continue on with the POCD and see that through to completion. But just so that we don't disrupt residents, that they can still submit their pool and shed permits and whatnot. That's things I can easily just check off at home. Jim will take care of any inspections that need to happen. You're not gonna have zoning enforcement coverage. Jim can do the blight, but you are gonna be without a ZEO, that can go out and respond to complaints. I can't get here during the day anymore. All I can do is offer to jump on, answer emails and get through your permits so people don't have to wait till you find somebody to get their pool approved. So I had said I'm willing to do that for a little while, a couple months. I'm also therefore available to Zoom into your meetings if you do need support. So that would cover P and Z if you wanted that, and wetlands and zoning board of appeals. But via Zoom only, it would be hard for me to get her.
For myself and on behalf of the commission, thank you for your service to us and for the town of East Hampton over the past couple of years. We appreciate the efforts. We appreciate rewriting our regulations, trying to keep us on track and keeping track of and identifying things like tonight's that's going to be on next month's agenda. So with that, what I'm looking for is, and everybody please don't go away after adjournment. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Okay, I have a motion from Angelus. Do I have a second? Second. We are adjourned. Lynn and Len, kindly got a whole bunch of cupcakes for us.